Hey, this is Brian Houp, and I'm a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
You're here. I'm here. We're all here because we care about results. Welcome back to another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. Today's guest is going to share how he has been getting results for experienced leaders. He is an executive coach. He is a good guy. He is Mr. Brian Houp. Let's jump in. Brian, welcome to the show. Good to be speaking with you again. How are you, my man?
I am excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
So you ready to rock this thing?
I am.
All right. Let's give our listeners a quick win. What book, and I see you have lots of books behind you, what book have you given away most as a gift?
If I can get away with it, I'd like to tell you two. So one is called The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier. And as an executive coach, I'm in the business of helping leaders as they take on more responsibility to lead better. This book does such a good job of helping leaders think in simple terms, of helping others think independently, like asking them the right questions and getting away from just being the person who gives the answer and the advice all the time. So that's my first one, The Coaching Habit. And the second one is Day by Day with James Allen, by Vic Johnson. You may have heard of As a Man Thinketh, which is like a 120-year-old book by James Allen. This Vic Johnson book, he takes that book and puts it into 30-day reading plan. It's like 2 pages a day. It's got like 2 lines from James Allen's book. And then he gives like modern examples. It is absolutely awesome. I give it away all the time and I highly recommend it. And that As a Man Thinketh, as you can guess with the word thinketh in the title, it's not terribly accessible, but the concepts are so solid. So that's my other favorite there.
All right. He gave us 3 for 1 today. We know we're winning already. So let's talk about failure. Tell us a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
So for me, before I started coaching full time, I was in the TV advertising business, and I was a leader in 2008 when the market crashed and the industry was turned inside out. At the end of the year, we had a holiday party, 150 of my coworkers, and we did some silly stuff in advance, like voting on, like in senior class, like class clown, best dressed. Unfortunately, I was voted hands down office workaholic. And that was a really eye-opening experience for me. Actually, the company set targets for us to grow 10%, and my team grew 7%. So we missed our goal. I was really upset. I conveniently ignored the fact that my competition was down an average of 25%. But I was really upset with myself because this also was just a couple of years before my wife had overcome her second battle with cancer. I was dealing with some other stresses in my personal life with other family members and addiction and things. And so out of anger and frustration, I just said, I'm not working as much as I did before. And so what's crazy is the whole next year, I set limits on myself and boundaries, and I actually became more efficient, and I actually brought a better version of myself to work and life. And I had an incredible year, performance-wise, our team did, and then just as far as my own happiness. So that definitely took me in a bit of a pendulum from being so upset and so frustrated to being so positive afterwards, I guess.
What would you say is the most worthwhile investment you've ever made?
When I first started working out of college, I got advice, 2 things: set aside money for just like what I called a wealth building account, independent of retirement. I put a minimum of 10% of my money in the wealth building account. And I also put extra money towards paying down debt. And that got me to a point to where just before I turned 40, I had paid off my house and a rental house, and I had some money set aside. And actually, it gave me the guts 9 years ago to leave the corporate world and start the business I have now.
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
There's so many. I'm always trying to improve habits. I think if I had to say one thing, I would say it has been investing in hiring other professionals who are experts in what they do to help me do what I'm trying to do. So for example, a couple of years ago, I hired a nutritional therapist. That was a game changer for me to really help me understand the makeup of what I was doing and where my body was. Hired a personal trainer the last few years. You and I talked before about our love for the mountains and the snow. Hiring a personal trainer to get ready for a ski trip, and hiring individual coaches. So just investing one-on-one on people who are experts at what they do and being able to kind of skip over steps and use their expertise to get me where I'm trying to go.
What did you say to, like, I have this friend and I always find it funny. He's like, who's going to coach me better than I can coach myself? And to me, I don't get it. I hire coaches, but what would you say to that guy?
I would say it depends on what kind of coaching you're looking for. If you get in the coaching field, the coaching industry, they have a term they call pure coaching. And so, like the International Coaching Federation, the ICF, which is kind of the industry standard, if you will, of coaching credentials, sometimes they get a little carried away with this idea that the person being coached has all the answers inside them. And I think there's a lot of value in that. But if they take it in its pure form, then the idea is really around asking questions and getting people to learn to find their own answers. And if that's the kind of coaching that you want, you can absolutely get in the habit of learning to navigate yourself and kind of come up with your own answers. But if you're looking for more of a sort of coach consultant, as I've heard it said before, where it's a little bit of direction and advice and mentorship and input along with the coaching to help people find their own answers and to be able to find insights that are more powerful because they discover them instead of you kind of telling them. In my experience, that's the best way. And I think the other thing is you can't see the forest for the trees a lot of times. I'm in a mastermind group. We were talking the other day, yesterday actually, about sharing some input on some stuff we were working on. And each of us were kind of scratching our own head and kind of saying, gosh, why didn't I see that? And it's like just too close to it a lot of times. That's my opinion.
Now, you opened up a can of worms just in case there's one person or two out there listening that don't know what a mastermind is. Can you just give us a synopsis of not only what it is, but why it's beneficial to you?
Yeah. So for me, it's a group of peers who have similar interests and similar goals. And we come together on a regular basis. In my group, we come together weekly for the most part. We have some structured hours where ours are all executive coaches. And we're trying to make sure that in some capacity, we're fine tuning our craft. In some capacity, we're talking about our marketing and we're talking about the challenges that our clients are facing so we can get better to help them. But essentially, the way I would describe it is it's a group of peers who are coming together on a regular basis to discuss ideas to help each other get closer to achieving their goals or to get their results, as you might like to say.
No, of course. I want to go one step deeper here. How do you go about picking a good mastermind?
Oh man, gosh, I have participated in several, and it's not been until the one I'm in now that it's been the same one now for I think about 4 years. And I think the thing is to find people who for me, it's people who are at the same level or further along than I am. I've been in some other ones where I'm further along than they are, or maybe my interests are different than theirs are, and it's not the best use of their time or my time, you know?
And I'm going to do another follow up and break all my rules. Because I was having this discussion with my wife this morning during our breakfast meeting. You just said something very interesting to me. You said that you've been in the same mastermind for 4 years. Is there a point, or maybe there's not, do you ever outgrow the mastermind?
I think it depends on the people who are in it. Like, so for me, it's been the right group. These are other executive coaches and it's frankly, there's only three of us. And we have talked about adding other people. And we've also kind of talked about it. And then we've backtracked a little bit because frankly, the three of us, and the other thing that we do, and part of it is because I'd like to think we're all some of the best in our game. And so part of our business is to continue to step it up. And so we are continually asking each other, like, okay, this is our format for the month. And then, we've done it. We do it every handful of months. Like, do we still like the way we're doing this? And we've changed it up. Like the first week of the month, let's practice some coaching and challenge each other on some experiments. And then in other cases, we're at a point where we say, for this whole month, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing to recruit some new speaking opportunities. And then somebody else, says, you know what, I kind of need to do that too. And we go, you know what if we just dedicate the next 3 weeks to focusing in on talking about how we're pursuing that and what examples we have. And so I think there has to be accountability, continual accountability to confirm that what we want and what we are getting are aligned.
I think you said it was in there, but you guys are all growing and evolving. and you're growing and evolving together. And that's why you've been able to do those 4 years, because I've outgrown many a mastermind and I'm like, I hate these people, but you know,
Yeah.
I'm sitting, there's one right now that I'm on my 3rd year and I'm like, I'm not even close. I'm not even close. And that's because the conversations are always up leveling. We're all pushing each other. One does, the other one does, and we all help each other up. And so that's kind of what I was hoping to extract from there. So thank you for allowing me to take that little sidebar, but let's get back to the show. What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
Perfect segue. So I think the reality is, in some cases, in my line of work, and in some cases, people are running masterminds who are trying to help. And so just to clarify, with my executive leaders that I work with, we're working on them getting better as an executive leader. And so in some cases, they have a very formulaic 57-step process that they believe in, that they want to follow to the T. In my experience, one size does not fit all. That my mastermind is a great example. We have evolved and changed our way of masterminding, if that's a verb. You know, we've done that over and over and over. And so that's what's made it work. And so this idea that one size fits all is probably the piece that frustrates me the most with people in my field. The other thing I would say, we talked about it earlier, in the coaching side of it, those folks who are so extremely dogged about, quote, pure coaching, and they don't want to really maybe give any advice and that sort of thing. And that's there is a lot of value in coaching in the pure way. And so those two things are two extreme opposites, you know, this 57-step approach, and then this, I'm just going to show up and ask you what's on your mind and we'll just take it from there. Those two things can have value, but in my experience, finding the way to get the best of both is what gets the best results. And as I've continued to fine tune my approach over the years.
Are you enjoying the interview? Yeah, I had to jump in here for a second and ask you, if you've been listening for a while and you haven't subscribed to this show, why not? Go to wherever you listen to podcasts, type in Results Leader FM, and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss another episode. Now that we got that out of the way, let's jump back into the interview. Well, let's talk about results. Why do results matter?
Why do they not matter? Like, I think it's like, how else do we know if the time and energy and effort that we're putting in is worth it, is getting us what we want? I guess you could say that, I was thinking about this because I know you've asked others the same question. You know, I guess you could say that it's not all about results, and maybe it's in the context of success, but I would say there's all different types of results, whether it's the results of your experience that you're having or your happiness or whatever it is. But if we don't pay attention to the results, we don't know how to continue to duplicate what has worked in the past, or we don't know how to step it up and make it better. And so for me, it's a huge part of what I do is looking at the results, because with it, we can continue to fine tune and get closer to where we want to go.
I want to keep taking sidebars with you, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay on script.
Okay,
let's play a little bit, right? So when we're thinking of results, a lot of times the idea of results is like, oh, results are good, but are bad results also valuable?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
I think, so specifically like in my work. So my process is to collect feedback on how a leader is currently showing up. Okay. And we'll make some comparisons to the appropriate successful senior level leadership competencies across the globe. And we'll make some comparisons to what the person says they're doing and what other people say they're doing. I'll do some interviews. I'll use some assessments. We'll look at the results as they currently stand, and then we can compare them to the results we want to get. And then we can learn from them and we can make adjustments. Big part of mine too is just the ongoing measurement. So, let's say you've got and this happens a lot, I've got a CEO I work with who has a reputation of arrogance, and that reputation of arrogance is getting in his way. We say we're going to work on that. And what we'll do in my process is we will continue to collect input every 6 weeks or so to see if the efforts that he's making are getting him the results he wants, or to help him see like, okay, you know what, one-on-one, what you're doing is starting to make a big difference. But I notice whenever we're in our executive team meetings and the discussion of money comes up, you just steamroll us all. And what's interesting is we didn't have that information at the beginning, but as we've sort of recruited a bunch of stakeholders to continue to give us feedback, we start to pick up these little nuances like, you know what, I've noticed you never make eye contact. And, there's like whatever these little sort of things might be that they start to discover. And so having the results that might be what we might call bad results, we don't have that. We don't know how to fix it. We don't know how to make it better. And fixing it meaning we don't know how to get what we're trying to get to.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend Nate says data, not drama. So what you're telling me here is we're collecting data to get us moving in the right direction.
That's right.
Whether it's good or bad, we're not going to put a label on it. It's just not where we want to be. That's
I like that. Data, not drama. I'm writing that down.
Yeah. Give Nate Kennedy credit on that one. So in the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
Well, it'd be a bridge from that same thing we just were talking about. And it's what I call going public. So, we established, let's just stick with that same example there. We established that this person needs to work on arrogance. And what we do is we go public, which is we tell anybody and everybody who will listen, I've discovered I've got an arrogance problem. And they go, yes, yeah, we know that. Good. And then, and I want to do something about it. And so they recruit a bunch of people to be able to continue to provide input. And so it's interesting. So, 9 years ago when I started doing this work, I would encourage people to do that, but I wouldn't sort of force them to do it. And I've learned in the last few years that, and the problem is, I think most of them want to do it. They're open to doing it. Some of them don't, but they're just so doggone busy. Whenever you're in a position of power and you got a lot of stuff thrown at you, it's just difficult to make it a priority. And so if we can set up systems and processes that ensure we're collecting ongoing feedback, and some of that's people like me making a phone call and having a 15-minute conversation, and some of it's sending little quick emails for quick surveys to say, take 30 seconds on your phone and answer a few questions. And so this going public piece has just made all the difference in the world. And like that example I gave you, where we start to get little nuggets that we didn't have from the beginning because we've recruited an army of people to study us and keep giving us input.
Some serious accountability there. So let's talk about your business. What area of your business would you like better results?
For me, I think I've been fortunate. What is it? Your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness, I guess. I've been fortunate that I've been able to survive for 9 years. A lot of individual businesses don't make it past 5, I think they say. And so that's been good. At the same time, I realized that I could do a better job at having more of a steady sort of awareness of incoming opportunities. Like last year, and you and I talked before, I had an accident last year, a mountain biking accident, and I broke my back and broke my neck, and I was in the hospital for a while and had some significant surgery and was laid up for months. And I was able to continue to survive, but there's definitely was a dip in sort of my new business efforts. And so for me, I am working on being more active as far as putting myself in a position to have more of a steady pipeline.
I guess that ties back into the speaking opportunities we talked about earlier, huh?
It does. And you know what? It also, the other thing is it's taking opportunities like this one. You reached out to me and we connected on LinkedIn and that kind of thing. And, before I would sort of push that aside and say, I'm focused on working on my business, but this is a part of my business that I got to do a better job of.
How about that? What results are you most proud of?
The results I am most proud of are whenever a person I'm working with has not only improved their behaviors or developed the skills that they need to lead at an executive level, but they have shifted their mindset in the process. So for example, I worked with a vice president of operations who, when we first started working together, he said, my goal is to become the CTO. I know our CTO is going to retire in the next few years, and I want to be the guy. And there's multiple of us who would probably be in line for it. The more we talked and the more we dove into his feedback, he started to see the damage that he'd been creating around him with his just sort of dogged approach to pressing on. The more he reflected and the more we dove into things and explored stuff, he realized that he cared about his legacy and the impressions he was making with others as much as he cared about the next promotion. I'll never forget the statement that he said, which was that my parents didn't raise me to be this way, as he was digesting some of the feedback.
Wow.
What's crazy is, and he's still well respected and did a good job. And he was harder on himself, which is kind of typical kind of overachiever type, right? But yeah, like, and so what's crazy is, so he shifted his approach and his mentality. Pleased to tell you that, like, I just recently heard that he's getting promoted when he can, in that example, bring his authentic self because he shifted the way he's looking at something. And then he can embrace some of the new strategies and tactics to be more equipped to be an executive leader. Those are the times I'm most proud. I love those kind of examples.
Any parting thoughts that you'd like to share with the results leaders who are listening to us right now?
I would say that when it comes to results, we need to remember that results come in all forms. And it's not just about our some of the stereotypical results of our business results or our health results or what, some of these things that we might be chasing as we listen to a podcast a lot of times. And those things are important. Those things give a lot of life, a lot of value to life, at least for me. But I think there's other things we need to prioritize, and, prioritizing life away from work and your quality of life is really important. I'm fortunate to have a couple of sons in their 20s who are great. I reflect back to my time when I was in the corporate world, and I spent physical time with them. A lot of times I wasn't as mentally active and engaged. I wasn't as present. And so I regret that. And I don't want people to have those kind of regrets. So there's my parting thoughts on results.
Powerful. Now, our listeners are definitely going to want to get more from you. Where can they go?
The easiest place would be my website, which is letsrezone.com. My company's Rezone Coaching. Everybody's got a zone. It's the great place where the great things are happening, and we're going to work on bringing you back to that zone. So my website, you can find me on LinkedIn, just my name, Brian Houp. I just started a YouTube channel. I started making some videos. There's not very many people been there yet, but I'd love to send people there. So yeah, those are some of the places.
Excellent. We will be sharing links to all of those in the show notes. We've been speaking with Mr. Brian Houp. Thank you for being here today. And thank you, results leaders, for tuning in. Another one's in the can. That is a wrap for another edition of resultsleader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to resultsleader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.